up, y'all? Welcome back to Urban FinTech at the G Spot Studios channel, where we try to make finance and technology sexy. I'm your girl G. I apologize. It's been a couple of weeks since I've made any videos. I had family in town. Then we had the Super Bowl last weekend, and today is All-Star weekend. So I'm just doing a little snippet video for you, just talking about the Russia potential weapon threat. And how it relates to cryptocurrency, how it relates to the power grid, how it relates to the finances of the future. Um, Really, just my thoughts on it. And so I hope you enjoy this video. All right, so unless you were under a rock the last couple of days, you should have heard about the Russian nuclear potential threat in space. And just looking at an article here on the Economist.com, and it says, "What is Russia's mysterious new space weapon?" And theories include a space nuke, where you just blast folks on Earth and bloop, everything is over, or a nuclear powered jammer, which is probably more of what it is. And that would be something that just kind of messes up the satellites communication. It can affect military operations, and essentially everything that we do here on Earth. It could just interrupt everything and make life a lot more difficult. And so Washington was abuzz on February 14th with news of a mysterious Russian space weapon. Mike Turner, chairman of House Intelligence Committee, urged the White House to declassify intelligence on a serious national security threat. American broadcasters and newspapers said that it concerned a Russian space related nuclear system not yet deployed that could endanger American and allied satellites. So, what could this be? Well, there's a couple of theories here. Um, some of the reporting has been contradictory, with some outlets describing a nuclear powered spacecraft and others a nuclear armed one. And so there are essentially three options here. The first would be a pop up nuclear weapon designed to destroy satellites, which could be stationed on the ground and launched only when it was about to be used. The second would be a nuclear weapon that could be stationed in orbit, so just out there floating around whenever they're ready to, push the button, it's over, bloop, there it is. And then the third would be a nuclear powered satellite, which would not be a bomb itself, but instead used nuclear energy to power some other sort of device. So either way it goes, it's all a clusterfuck, and this is something that we should probably be concerned about. And if you pay attention to politics, a lot of times during elections, and I believe there's elections all over the world right now, or at least upcoming this year for several different major countries, particularly countries with the larger GDP. So the countries that have the money, that have the bag. And people will venture to say that this is a setup. Some people will say, it's part of a plan. There's some bigger thing at play here. And I would probably lean on that side as well. And so one of the things with cryptocurrency is a lot of people that I talk to about it, who knows that I invest in it, are always like, oh, it's a scam, it's a Ponzi scheme, it's blah, blah, blah. But when you really think about it, I'm like, I'm going to win either way because I'm invested in it. So if it is going to be here to stay, if it is the future, then I've secured myself earlier on. Unfortunately, not super early like some other people, but early enough. And I'm okay with that. However, if there is some kind of system malfunction, if the grid goes down, honey, I'm okay with that too, because essentially what they're going to do is usher in some kind of basic income system. They'll have to, because you have people that are going to be hurting and starving, and so governments around the world will have to usher in some kind of system to aid people and have like a common, I don't know what you want to call it, a common bank, a common financial structure for citizens. And I'm okay with that too. So either way, I think we're winning. So if you are invested early, I think you got in at a great time. Um, and I think this is something that is going to happen regardless. If nothing happens this year, give it a couple of years. It is something is brewing, and I know people feel it all over. I have felt it for a long time. And so, thinking about Russia and its invasion of Ukraine, all of this seems very much a part of a larger plan. And it also underscores the new willingness that Russia is willing to abandon its international treaties, because there are treaties that were signed, Moscow in particular, that it's called the Outer Space Treaty, which prohibits the deployment of nuclear weapons or other kinds of weapons of mass destruction into space. And so, if they go against that and break that, then I'm sure all hell will break loose, or it's just all a part of the plan. So it says officials have been worried, in particular, about Russia's nuclear capabilities in the wake of its invasion in Ukraine. Those fears have dealt primarily with Moscow's considerations of deploying ground nuclear weapons. So while the Kremlin has threatened to use them on the battlefield, intelligence officials have calculated that Moscow is not actively attempting to move such weapons to the front lines. So there's a lot of news and information that's coming out. Part of it is to just create fear and hysteria, confusion, distractions, because there could be other things at play. So we always want to keep that into consideration when we're taking in this information. Take it with a grain of salt, but also be prepared. And so I have a couple of videos on what you should do if the power grid goes down, because it's inevitable. It's one of those things that I feel like was a test during the C20 minus one event. So that is part of my theory, is that it was probably a real thing, maybe played up a little bit, but mostly it was a test to see how people, or how our grid can handle sort of all of this computer input output that was taking place. People working remotely from home. Bitcoin became really huge. Prior to that, cryptocurrency became super huge, the investment part of it, during 2020, 2021 bull run. And all of that entails some level of computing and electronics. And so, sort of testing the grid to see how strong it was in order to prepare for whatever it is that is to come. They've been talking about the solar sunspots on the sun. That happen every 11 years or so. I have a video on that as well. So all of it is just so coincidental that it seems scripted. Let's just call it what it is.